Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. How are you doing today? Ready for some new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one, about OP's mother, who accused OP of being jealous that she is having another baby and threatened to go no contact with him. But, well, guess what happened after the baby daddy decided he's not ready to be the father? Listen to the story to find out, and of course to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. A couple of years ago, my mother met her partner. He seemed nice enough when I first met him, but their age gap, 10 years, bothered me. He was still in his 20s then, and she was nearly 40. I don't think I'm close-minded, but it didn't seem like they had a lot in common which supported their relationship. He also came across as really immature, even though he's much older than me. As much as I tried to be supportive, I just found him to be a weird and gross guy, and the way he talked to and about my mom was, I felt, disrespectful. I started expressing my concerns to her, but she didn't want to hear them and dismissed them all. I got more concerned when he started pushing her for a baby. She didn't want one, never had one at another, but he kept pushing her for it and did so for over a year until she finally agreed. This is what led to our falling out. I asked her if she was sure this was a good idea, all things considered, and she flipped out. She accused me of being jealous of their future baby, and her partner said that I was ungrateful for begrudging her happiness after all she'd done for me. Then she told me that if I didn't start being more supportive, not only would I no longer be welcomed in her home, but she would also limit contact and focus more on positive influences in her life. She did eventually get pregnant, but unsurprisingly, her partner has now kicked her out and abandoned her. He decided he didn't want to be a father after all, which seemed obvious to me based on some of his comments. He liked the idea of fatherhood, but never seemed to acknowledge the reality and had built up his own fantasy of what it would be like. I wasn't the only family member my mom burned bridges with, so now that she's been kicked out, she has nowhere permanently to stay. She asked me if she could stay with me, and I said no, because she's never apologized for what she said, and if he hadn't dumped her, I doubt she would have. But my girlfriend says I'm being too harsh. She believes in family and forgiveness, and the fact that my mom is pretty far along in her pregnancy also is something she says merits mercy. I just don't know if I agree after what she said to me. That changed my entire view of my mom and made me realize that she's not a good person if she thinks that way. Why should I look the other way now when she was okay kicking me to the curb? Is my girlfriend right about me being the a-hole? Well, OP's mom is a big girl and made some big girl decisions and said some not so nice things. She can sort this out on her own. In fact, she'll be better off for it. If she had the gift of hindsight and seen some growth, then she would react differently when engaging with OP, i.e., you catch more flies with honey. If OP's mom hasn't shown growth, all OP is going to do is enable her behavior. Note, a growing belly with baby isn't the type of growth I'm referring to. Basically, she made her own bed. And now let's hear the community's opinion on the matter. Autonomous Egg says, "Not the a-hole. Your mom hasn't even apologized. Letting her stay would be incredibly generous, but you're not the a-hole for refusing." Historian Fast 5838 says, "Not the a-hole. You voice your opinion and told your mother on what her partner was saying about her. 10 years difference. That was a red flag from the beginning. Also, your girlfriend needs to understand that just because she can forgive and forget because people share the same blood, doesn't mean everyone else will. I always hate hearing that. I always get into it with my family about my cousin's mom, and my family love to say that that's their mom, and always be their mom after all the stuff she did. My family say that I'm being the idiot and that I'm the problem here, but I don't know what more to do. I've been married to my husband for 2 years. We have a daughter together. He's from a Middle Eastern family, and I'm white British. He's a super great guy, and we were very happy. This past week, he sat me down and told me he needed to talk. He expressed that he was actually gay, and that he married me because he really does love me. He enjoys my company, and could spend the rest of his life with me, but that in reality, he isn't attracted to me and that he's gay. Of course, it hurt initially. A lot. But after hours of talking, I do understand. I'm bi and extremely lucky to have a supportive family, no matter who I'm dating. He, on the other hand, doesn't have that. His family apparently sensed that he might be gay and threatened to send him back to their home country or disown him. I can't imagine how confusing and hard that is, and he had to do what he had to do to survive. He says I gave him the confidence to come out to a select few people, and that he hopes I understand. He asked that I don't divorce him just yet, so he can make sure he's safe from his family before they find out. He said he understood if I said no. I agreed to stay married for a while longer. Of course, I asked why he'd have a child with me, and if he understood how confused she'd be. But after talking, well, we both love her so much that we will make sure that's all she knows, and that her dad is now happy being himself. My family said I'm damaging my child for staying with him, and that I'm being selfish. He's my best friend. I want to make this as easy as possible, and he still wants to be in his daughter's life as much as he possibly can. I'm getting a lot of people telling me I'm an a-hole for saying yes, and that I should have kicked him to the curb and let him deal with his family. Am I the a-hole? Am I making the wrong choice? Edit. I'm not staying married to him, although he did ask. I'm happy to co-parent and remain married until he feels safe to come out fully. I'd also consider remaining in the same home, but I think realistically, I'll want to meet other people and give myself the chance to remarry further down the line. That being said, I'm going at his pace, and I'm willing to be as patient as needed. He will always have joint custody and full access to his child, and we will always be a family, however different we may be. Well, I have an unpopular opinion in this situation. He lied to OP. He married her knowing his orientation, and hid that from OP. Of course, it's OP's choice to stay married to him, but I think he's in the wrong in this situation. I personally think he basically used OP to hide his orientation from his family, as he said himself that they suspected. Of course, now he is telling a sob story to OP, and OP, being a kind-hearted person, believes him. But as I said, it's up to OP, and she's not in the wrong if she feels like she can trust him. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. I guess they don't. The hostile goose says, "Not the a-hole. How are you the a-hole? You're being amazingly thoughtful. That doesn't make you selfish. You have your best friend, father of your child's best interest at heart, and that is awesome and entirely selfless." Deleted user says, "Not the a-hole. You sound like a dream spouse in this situation. You guys have come up with a way to move forward that you think is best for your family. I'm not sure why anyone else feels the need to give an opinion." Deleted user says, "Not the a-hole. There are so many ways to love someone. It sounds like you still love each other very much. It's not his fault he came to this realization when he did, and you're not wrong for supporting him. Your daughter will understand. Kids are surprisingly good at that. She will also be fine no matter what you do." My husband is terminally ill, and yesterday we were told that he has several weeks to live. I've been my husband's primary carer since being diagnosed 8 months ago, and have been doing everything to support him, including sacrificing my work. A few months ago, we started to develop his will with consultation from a lawyer in estate planning. My husband is leaving a large portion of his estate to family, which I'm very supportive of. As such, his will outlines that his family receives all this money from his estate. The problem is that in Australia, the 401k he has is a primary part of his wealth and is by law left to the spouse, not the estate. That means that to pay for all these gifts, it would have to come out of either selling our home or me using my inheritance money to settle the gifts. My husband is comfortable with the will and in me fulfilling his wishes by either me selling our home or using my inheritance as his partner to settle the gifts. Either way, the gifts are going to be paid and the will is absolutely valid. Tonight, an uncle from my partner turns up from another state and starts explaining the above, stating that the family is at risk of not receiving the inheritance because of the will only including the estate. And emphasis here, by law, the spouse is to receive the 401k. Superannuation, we call it here. The will specifies I receive anything left after the gifts. He asked me to sign a handwritten deed, stating that I will fund his family's gifts using the 401k money or my own money. In other words, forcing my hand paying them their gifts if his estate doesn't cover it. I took great offense to this and stated this is incredibly disrespectful and insulting, especially since my husband didn't ask for this, that he has very limited time and we're wasting it on political and legal issues, and most importantly, that you would question me as his husband in my ability to fulfill my dying husband's final wishes. I quickly broke into tears and left the room and refused to speak to the uncle. Before I left, I said I will review the contract, but not before my lawyer reviews it. My husband was very sad when I left the room and was mad at the uncle for doing this to me. I feel like this uncle is meddling in our affairs as husbands. He's trying to look out for his family, but in doing so, has shown to me the little trust he has in me as the man my husband picked all these years ago, married, and am now losing. I've seen this uncle a few times a year over the duration of our relationship. Of course, I would fulfill my husband's wishes, and my whole life is him. I'm shocked we would spend this time on semantics of how money is distributed, than to be present with my beautiful man in his final moments. Am I the a-hole for not signing this handwritten deed? OP's husband shouldn't be giving gifts that he can't cover. I'm surprised OP is going along with this. The house and the 401k should be OP's. He should then gift any remaining money to his family as he wishes. OP needs to speak to a lawyer. Gin and tonic with dog says, not the a-hole at all. Is your husband really willing for you to lose your home when he dies? Ask him to either support the rest of your life or find someone else to nurse him. If he says he wants you to lose your home as well as your husband, then book carers for him for a few days and take a well-deserved break. If he doesn't care about your life, then you are wasting your time caring for him now. One thing to check is whether his uncle is putting undue pressure on him when he is vulnerable. Is there anyone else from his family that you could check in with? Aguilera says, your husband kind of is the worst. His responsibility is to protect your financial future, not his family's. Making you have to give up your home or the 401k in which he made you the beneficiary is kind of rude and disrespectful to you. You sacrificed for him, and he is repaying you by giving away your financial stability to his family, and he is adding extra work for you after you will be grieving his loss. Not the a-hole, but your husband is. Hiding behind my screen says, not the a-hole, but I'm very confused about why you would go along with such an arrangement in the first place. Typically, a person's estate is inherited by their spouse, or divided by spouse and children from a prior marriage. 401ks typically fall outside of the estate. Giving more than 100% of his estate is ludicrous. It caps at 100%. Honestly, your husband is the a-hole here. He is giving away what is typically yours by marriage. Half of the money in his estate is yours at the very least. You mentioned that you make more than him. So really, whatever that percentage is yours, and the remainder is what should be divided if appropriate. And even that shouldn't be given entirely to his family. Right now, you are giving away your estate too. I, 39 male, have been with my girlfriend now for 4 years. Our relationship started as an affair, as she was married to her ex-husband at the time. I was also married. I'm not proud of it, but it is what it is. She and her ex-husband have a daughter together, who is now 19. I have 4 kids of my own with my ex-wife. My wife's ex-husband isn't in his daughter's life much, so she lives here with my family. We have only been living together for the past 7 months or so. She's never liked me, and has always told me I'm the reason her family was broken apart. She's great with my kids, offers to babysit them, and they love her, but it's the opposite with me. She's extremely cold and doesn't listen to a word I say when her mom isn't around. She goes out of her way to piss me off, including bringing her boyfriend around when we haven't allowed it. Every year, my parents plan a big family vacation to their vacation home on Vancouver Island. This is the first one where my parents have told me to bring my wife and stepdaughter because they're living with us now. I brought it up at the dinner table and mentioned to my stepdaughter that she could stay with her boyfriend the week we would be gone. I had mentioned to my wife that I didn't want her to come, so they both asked why. She initially thought it was because I didn't want to pay for her, so she got quite upset and told me that if money was the issue, she wouldn't mind paying herself as she'd really like to go. I told her that if she couldn't be a part of my family at home, how could she expect to be a part of my family when we were on vacation? She went quiet, and it wasn't spoken about again. My wife didn't think she was too bothered at first, because she's a teenager and has that don't talk to me vibe about her. But my stepdaughter later confided in my wife about how excluded she feels from the family and that she wants to go and live with her dad. My wife is now furious with me, saying I make absolutely no effort with her, but she makes even less effort with me. Am I the a-hole? Choktopus says, you're the a-hole. I did something crappy, so my stepdaughter doesn't like me, but she's been wonderful to the rest of my family. So I thought I would make the situation better by taking all of my family on a wonderful vacation that she's not allowed to go on because she reminds me that I was a crappy person. Yes, both you and her mother had an affair, but the two of you found happiness afterwards. Your stepdaughter is a reminder that there were consequences to your crappy actions, and you don't want to be reminded that your happiness came at someone else's expense. If you do not include your stepdaughter in this trip, chances are you will never have a good relationship. Clearly, in this whole situation, she is being the better person, because despite her feelings towards you, she is more than pulling her weight in her new blended family by lovingly caring for her step-siblings. The least you could do is pretend to care for her. MDS and Bell says, "You're the a-hole. Dude, you broke up a 15-year-old kid's family. She's allowed to be pissed off." Shadows 524 says, "You're the a-hole. Of course she doesn't like you. You and your girlfriend aren't good people. But if she's good with the rest of the family, and your mother specifically invited her, then it's crappy of you to exclude her. She's part of the family too." My parenting agreement included the words, "Both parents must give permission to take the child out of state or out of the country." The first few years after my divorce, I had no issues taking my son with me on trips. But once I married my wife, my ex became extremely hostile and denied every single request to take my son out of state, let alone out of the country. We initially tried to make do by taking local trips, but my wife and I felt it was very unfair to my stepdaughter and our two younger children to miss out on these experiences. So from the time my son was 12 to 18, we went on 4 big trips that were out of the country. And every time, I planned the trips on my custody days and requested official permission from my ex, which she always denied. And as much as I hated it, we went on the trips anyways. I went back to court 3 separate times over the years to fix the wording in the agreement, which I always lost. At the guidance of our family therapist, I was always upfront with my son about why he wasn't able to come on the trips. And I also made sure I saved proof of my ex denying permission. He was upset, but at the time directed his anger at my ex and seemed to be understanding towards me. But when my son turned 18, it all blew up in my face. He started attacking me for going on the trips. I tried to compromise by paying airfare for him to go to the same locations we went to. But that wasn't enough, and I've since paid all his costs to go to New York City and Hawaii to try and fix our relationship. But after every trip, he just comes back angrier because he wants the entire family to go with him. My wife stopped working a year ago due to some issues. There's no way I can afford what he's asking. I had to be firm, and I told him he can accept my offer of paying for his trips, which are not cheap in the slightest, or not get anything at all. And I told him he had to wait for the next 2 trips because money is very tight. He did not take it well, and now has involved my ex, her parents, my parents, and it's a whole mess. Was I the a-hole here? I feel like I'm at a breaking point from the stress. The last Basilope says, "Everyone sucks here, except your son. Your son doesn't want the places, he wants the family time. Yes, it's his mother's fault he couldn't go on the trips, but by planning them during your custody time, you actually took the time he was supposed to get with you away from him to spend it with your new family. Take the money you're using to send him away on his own and invest it in some closer trips you can actually do as a family, as well as some family counseling, because you simply are not hearing what he is really trying to express to you. That he has felt left out of your family all these years, and by sending him solo on these trips, you are making it even more clear that you still see him as separate from your family." Elfish47 says, "Everyone sucks here. Your ex-wife got what she wanted, your son being estranged from you. Logic isn't going to be able to overcome this very easily because he feels left out. And truthfully, you did leave him out, and he has plenty of reason to be angry with you." Deleted User says, "Not the a-hole, but I can see why your son is pissed. His stepsister and younger siblings got to go on amazing vacations while he was stuck at home. And yes, while it's his mom's fault, that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt him. He watched his dad take his other family on vacation. He probably feels really left out and secluded from you, your wife, and your other children. I'd give him your ultimatum and simply say, 'I'm sorry you're hurt. You know why you couldn't go.' After that, let it be. You can't control how he reacts. And as I said, I can see how he feels. He might not want to have a relationship with you after this. That's his prerogative, and you need to respect that. He has a right to his feelings no matter how wrong you think they are. He was just a kid who was told to stay at home while his dad's other kids got to go outside of the country without him. I know I'd feel pretty upset about that too.